Hey, what's up everyone, and welcome to my extensive list of tips and tricks, things I wish I knew before starting V-Rising, this amazing game in early access stage right now. First of all, we're gonna go over the basic stuff and go into more in-depth stuff as the video goes up. So let's get right into it. First of all, the blood types. These are basically the builds that you will be able to have during the games. You can see what blood type you have at the bottom here and what are the effect of it. You can also see the quantity of liter of blood you still have in the top left of that pop-up. Right now I got 8.5 out of 10. This is really mandatory for any playtime on the game, because this, if you run out of it, you will lose HP pretty fast. You will not die, but you will remain at 1 HP, so on the verge of death. I will show you a list of the blood types here. Make a pause on the game, on the video, if you want to check what it's all about. And there's also ways to keep your blood type. Early on you will be able to heal with Blood Mend, which lets you regen HP, so you don't die off while fighting and everything. But you can also use these types of item here, the Vermin Salve made with plants and vermins. As you can see here, you can use those materials to make them. Those are pretty useful early on, because let's say you got a pretty good blood type with good quality. You want to use those to regen HP and not your Blood Mend, because Blood Mend will drain your blood pool quite fast, so you will need to change your blood right after that. So you don't want to go to 0%. A good place to get rats early on is actually in the tutorial areas, where you start the game with your character. When you wake up in the coffin, you will make your way out of these region, depending on where you started, where you decided to start. And there's a really good amount of rats in these area. As you can see, I went there just to show you guys, and I got 47 rats just by breaking down all the tombstones, opening up the coffins and stuff like this. You can get a pretty good amount of rats in these area for early efficiency. Please note that on my server the stacks are 5 times bigger, so you will probably not be able to stack up 50 rats on one stacks. This is due to my settings. Next off, we have the Mist Brazier that are super useful early on in the game. You need 120 stones to make. Basically, you can place them anywhere you want in your fortification area, as long as you don't have any ground tiles or whatever next to it. What you want to do is put some bones into it and activate the feature here, so it creates a shade around it, covering you from the sun. It's acting like kind of a mist. As you can see, the size increasing right now. It is not that wide, so keep in mind that you might need to have 2 of those if you have a bigger base. You will also need to turn that off. Well, you don't need to, but I highly suggest you do so. Turn it off when the night comes, because you don't need that shade anymore, so it will save you on the mat consumption pretty extensively compared to if you let it burn through the night and you're out of your castle doing stuff like killing bosses and stuff. You will not need to have that burning, so turn it off when you don't need it. So since the game has a feature of sunlight damage and all this, you want to plan ahead your nights. Basically, during the day you want to be in your fortification with your Mist Brazier going and creating stuff like crafting your weapons or placing stuff in the containers you made and so on. During the night you want to be going for bosses or gather specific types of blood and such, because some bosses in the game don't have any cover for you to hide while fighting. So it's better to go fight bosses in nighttime and work on your castle or base during the daytime with the Mist Brazier, unless you have a roof on. Next tip, I highly suggest that you go for a horse early on, because horses will make your traveling way more fast and efficient. As you can see, it can go quite fast. It's super useful. And a good place to get one early on is right here on the map. I will show you right now. Right here, by the farm here. There's also the horse track over here with some horses, of course. And anywhere you see a horse logo when you highlight the region will tell you that there's a horses over there. So depending on where you made your base, go to the closest to you, get a horse, and it's gonna make your traveling way more efficient early on. Keep in mind that horses have different stats. Max speed can go all the way to 11, acceleration can go all the way to 6, and rotation 14. So as you can see, my horse right here is probably the best horse I've ever seen. It's 0.1 missing all over. And you also need those water-filled canteen to keep it alive. If it runs out of water, it will vanish. So keep some water canteen. You can make those with leather and fill them up by rivers. Just place the empty canteen in your shortcut and mash the button corresponding to the shortcut next to a water supply. Super important. And for getting a horse, all you have to do is get close to it, mount it, and you can see then the stat it has. And you can see here, it's not that great compared to the other one. And keep in mind that the brighter the numbers, like 4.8, you can see it's a bit brighter than the other ones, the better overall stat is. Another strat for the horse, some people find it super hard to navigate the horse because you gotta go with WASD to turn as you go. A strat that I found is that if you press the forward button on your mouse, if you have the two side buttons, it goes into autorun, and you can just hold the right click, and by turning the camera, you can control your horse, making the controlling way easier if you have trouble with the ASDW controls. Another small tips I can give you for the quest, I don't have any more quests on the top left because I've done all of them, but at some point the game will ask you to make a roof and how to make it. I figured a way to make it super quick and efficient. Let's say you have a big base, my base is 11 tiles by 11. Basically, making a whole roof on top of that early on requires a ton of mats, and you probably don't want to farm all of this early on just to clear that quest step. A really fast trick to do it is placing these around your castle heart, because that will create a roof on top of your castle heart, and it actually counts as a floor. Basically, you put the 3 walls, a doorway, put a door in, and then you go in, and it should clear the quest right there and make the quest complete in a matter of seconds instead of having to complete the whole base. So it's making this way easier. Another strat that might sound kinda ridiculous, but it's highly suggested, is close your doors. If you close your doors, anyone that is not in your clan here, cannot go inside your base. If you keep your door open, enemies, NPCs can go in if you're close to a road. Anyone can go in and open up chest if they want to get your loot. So please close your door. If you go in clanmate's castle, close the door behind you as well so they don't get invaded by NPCs and such. Next tip is you can use the crafting station as storage. Let's say you don't have many mats to make your chests, you can use those things as chest, temporary chest that is, as extra storage. So let's say I don't have place for these items, I can just put them in this, keep some room so I can craft my stuff, and everything's gonna be fine. As long as it's not an item and you can craft something with it, because right now you can see I'm doing these. It will stay there and remain. You can also use the other side for storage too. It's all up to you. Another tips here is when you have your storage going, you never want to take everything out of it, because there's a feature with this Compulsively Count. Transfer item from your inventory if the same type of item exists in the container. So basically, let's say I keep one stack of this, or like one item. As long as I have one item in it and I press this button, everything that is already in the container will go in. So it makes dropping items out of a run, gathering mats and such, way easier instead of having to manually deposit stuff into it. Way more efficient. So always keep at least one copy of the item in, take the rest, and then when you come back you can use that feature to auto transfer everything. You don't have to drag and drop as well, you can just right click on it, it will go straight into it. Super useful. You can also split stacks with the mouse wheel button. It splits stacks in half, which is the reason why I'm using 2 grinders, 2 sawmill, and so on, because I can just split the stack in half, put half a stack, and everything goes for less time. Super efficient. For the next part of the tips, we have the weapon types and what to use them for. First off, the spear. It has a bonus damage to creature, as you can see. So if you want to fight bears, wolf, any types of creatures, when you look at the blood type below the enemy bar HP, it will tell you what type it is. If it says creature, then use a spear to do extra damage to it. The sight is for the undead. Mace is to mineral, so anything you want to break, stone, pillars, or you want to fight, let's say, a stone golem, this will do extra damage to them. This is a fishing rod to catch fish, of course. The sword here, damage to vegetation. It's the same thing for the slasher that I don't use much. I feel the slasher are more a PvP weapon type. It's fun to use, I just don't like the moveset or the damage it does. Because each type of weapon have different combo for basic attacks. As you can see, the primary attack will deal 50, 50, and 55 for the sight. Spear is 40, 40, 50, so mace 50, 50, 60. As you can see, it's different for each of them. And I prefer using the sword for my vegetation for the whirlwind because it's acting like a weed eater and I'm loving it. It is chopping the stuff in the garden really quite fast and I really like it. Crossbow is to use for nothing else, nothing in particular I mean. It doesn't have any bonus to damage, as you can see, Sanguine Crossbow. Physical power, no special damage bonus, but it's actually pretty good for some boss fight. Some enemies will attack you so fast if you go melee, or some of them have even counter attacks if you get too close. So using a crossbow will make them not use those attacks and make the fight way easier for you to get it dead. Next tip is about the blood system that you can use in the blood press to craft certain items. Basically, the rats, you want to keep them. The hearts you get, you want to keep them. You can also consume them to get certain amount of blood. I don't suggest it. If you're about to run out of blood, just find a deer or just find a wolf or any kind of trash mob, feed on it, refill your blood pool with this, keep those for crafting use and such. I don't recommend using rats for this for sure, because you can get these by killing anything in the game. You will have plenty of those by killing stuff. These, you can use them to make some blood essence as well. These are super useful for these, and Exquisite Heart is mandatory endgame to make those primal blood essence. Super useful. You can also use the greater blood that you get from these to make the primal ones as well, just like you can make the basic one into greater and the greater into the, you can upgrade the tiers of each of them. Super useful later on to make the end game item sets. And the rats, the next use for it, the reason that I'm telling you not to use those for blood is that you will need them for the slave system, the prisoner system. You will need it to feed and get HP back to your units. I will show you right now. So basically, when you see that you still have some damage on your unit, you can feed him a rat over time and it will regen its HP. Super useful. Next tip will be about the clan system and the research system. Everyone in a clan, in my server I have a slots of 10 members per clan. What happens with this is, let's say one of my clan members has everything done like I have here, but I don't. I can go to his research desk at his house, open it up, and learn everything that he has learned by clicking on it and doing research. So all the knowledge of every research station can be shared within the clan. So what you want to do is centralize all of the resources you have, the paper, the scrolls, the schematics, and send it to one character, one player that has the most research done, so he can fully research everything, and so everybody else from the clan can go to his base, learn everything, and skip a lot of time for research completion. My next tip is about getting the 100% blood type that you want to get. If you don't have access to prisoners yet, you can bring that back home, so you will have to hunt for this every time it's about to go down. The best place I've seen out of my testing to get high quality blood is over here on the map. This is where I've got almost all of my 100% blood types for my prisoners. I will show you how I've done it. Once you get the blood hunger for killing Tristan, if I recall. Yes, so when you kill Tristan, you get the blood hunger. It lets you see the blood type and the blood quality of every units nearby. So usually before you have access to this, you have to highlight the character, put your cursor on it, and you can see the blood type and the quality on top. If you got the blood hunger, you can see it all, and the brighter the red, the better the quality as well. So it kind of pop up. See this 59 right there? It's bright, letting me know that it's better than the other ones. It's way easier to find stuff that you want to keep, and making everything way more simple. So if I would like to get this one, well, I killed it, but you could have fed on it and get it. Right now I'm way too powerful for these, so I'm getting them dead pretty fast. And another tip about this, in general here, toggle equip mode enabled. If you want to be able to unequip weapons and go with your claws so you don't do as much damage, like right now I'm using the scythe, I'm turning it off, using my fist, you can put that on. By default it's on. Myself, I turn it off because when you remove your weapon, you can see that my gear score goes from 82 to 58. It happened to me against the endgame bosses, where I would be fighting and misclicking my switching weapons and removing the weapon, getting hit at the same time, almost one-shotting me. So it put me a huge stress on the fight, and I was wondering if I could remove that feature, and this is how you remove it. You just uncheck that box right here. So basically now if I press 2 again, I don't remove my weapon, not lowering my gear score and not dying in the boss fight. Super useful. Take it, leave it, do whatever you want with it, it's up to you. Personally, I don't want to keep it. It's not something that I like to lower my gear score and get one shot. Next strat is about my favorite combo in the game to do high DPS. I will go and show you on a big enemy over here what it's doing as damage so it can survive the hits. Alright, so to show you what happens with the combo I told you about is, as you can see, the damage ramp up to 232 right there. That was pretty solid DPS right here, which is why I love that combination. My next tip is about the PvP players out there. There's ways to keep your equipment locked that are pretty useful, which is these, the Vampire Lockbox. I'll show you what happens when you craft one of these. You should be able to make one of these per server by default. It's a small container, but what happens with it, it's that a unique container that can hold up to 14 items. Enemy players cannot loot items from this container. So my server right now, it's a PvE server. I will turn it into a PvP once people reach the kind of end of the content right now, to do tournaments and stuff. But they will still not be able to loot anything in my castle. But this lets you forbid enemy players to loot stuff in it. So my chest over here used to be one of those, but it's too small, I don't like it much. And you want to put stuff like this, or helmets, which is basically just aesthetics. But it will protect your silver coin from getting looted. And you can use those to buy other kind of helmets, or gems, or potion at the different merchant that goes around the map. And this is pretty useful for PvP. So this is it for my list of tips and tricks. If you have learned anything good, please like the video. I'm trying to push more content for this game. My next video will be a video on housing and my perfect setup of the house that I went a bit around in this video. We will get more into in depth in the next video. And also a video on the servants system and how to get good servants, how it works, the perks and all this. So look up for this. If you have learned many things, subscribe. It's going a long way to help me and support me in my content creation. Thank you everyone, and I will see you later. Take care.